You are listening to Dark Whispers by Jalan, true horror that lingers long after the story ends. Subscribe for daily dives into the eerie, the unexplained, and the stories that were never supposed to be told. Reality might be the hardest thing to figure out. We live in it, breathe it, move through it, every second of every day, and still we don't really know what it is. Technically, it's everything that exists, everything that's real. But what if, just like that, something happens? Something that bends those rules, the kind of rules that aren't supposed to break. What if reality glitches? We've seen weird things before. Mandela effect, doppelgangers. All of that's wild, no doubt. But here's what gets to me more. If the world around us can glitch, maybe we can glitch too. We touched on this before, like in my Backrooms video. You're living life like normal. Everything feels familiar. Then suddenly it flips. The world looks the same, but something's off. Too off. Until you realize it's not your world anymore. Most folks think that kind of thing belongs in horror movies or fiction, but every now and then, something happens in real life. Something that makes you stop and ask, what really happened here? And James Tedford, he's our first example. It was winter, snow piling high in St. Albans, Vermont. The year was 1949. A public bus was packed with passengers, all heading for Bennington. One of them was a man named James Tedford. The ride should have taken 8 hours, a trip he knew well. Tedford had just served in World War II. He was living at the Bennington Soldiers' Home now, but his family stayed in St. Albans, so he made the trip back and forth a lot. That day, though, the snow wouldn't let up. The bus got slowed down by hours. It's got folks wondering, did reality glitch? Did something go wrong in our system that day? Right there on that last stretch of road. Something that pulled James Tedford out of our world completely. It sounds impossible, but so does this story. So the bigger question is, can our reality even do something like that? Can it break like that? There's no solid answer. There probably won't ever be one. But there is one theory that could explain all of it. It's called simulation theory. The idea is simple, but terrifying. We might be living inside a simulation, and like any simulation, it can malfunction. And yeah, I get it. It sounds crazy, but let me break it down. Now imagine this. One simulated world creates another. Then that one creates its own, and it keeps going. Over and over. A chain with no end. Someone builds a universe. That universe matures, learns, evolves. Then it builds another one, and that one builds another. You end up with stacked simulations, one inside the next, like boxes in a box. But only one of those is real. Just one. Every time a new one is created, it births millions more, full of digital lives, characters, people, and none of them know their world isn't real. They don't question it. They can't. So here's what I'm saying. Once the first simulated world exists, it cracks the door wide open. After that, you could have billions, maybe trillions of other simulated worlds come right after it. So now ask yourself this. Where does that leave us? Are we the original? Are we base reality, the first world? Or are we just one more link in that infinite chain? One of the trillions that came after. It sounds wild. I know. But sit with it for a second. If you believe we'll have the tech to make full simulations in the future, then that means there's a good chance we're already inside one. In fact, the odds of us being the one true reality, according to the theory, it's like 1 in billions. Even folks like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson have co-signed that logic. They say, if games one day become indistinguishable from real life, and we're clearly headed that way, then what makes us think this isn't one of them? Because there'll be billions of those future simulations, run on billions of machines, billions of screens. So yeah, odds are, we're probably not base reality. That doesn't prove it, but they're smarter than me, and that makes it harder to ignore. Now I get it. This all sounds like some sci-fi stuff off YouTube at 2 a.m. But here's the twist. This theory isn't just talk, it's backed by real research. Real science. A growing number of scientists are looking into it seriously. There's so much more to this idea. We could spend hours going deeper. But for now we'll leave it right here. Because honestly, just understanding this much, it might explain why these real-world glitches happen. Because every system, every game, every simulation, it glitches eventually. And some of those glitches, they're worse than just a little flicker, or a lag. Some glitches erase people. Now let's be real. Folks go missing all the time. Most of them turn up later, but some don't. And the ones who vanish without a trace, that's hard enough to understand. But what about when whole groups vanish? Entire communities just gone. That's something else entirely. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, logic doesn't explain it. One of the oldest stories like this goes way, way back, all the way to 1585, the Roanoke colony. A group of European settlers sailed to the island of Roanoke, tried to start a new life, but right from the beginning it wasn't going well. They clashed with the native tribes in the area, never found peace. The land itself couldn't even sustain them. No enough food, no reliable supply. So they sent a ship back to Europe, said go get help, bring back supplies. The captain promised they'd return in a year. But once that ship made it to Europe, war broke out, and the return voyage got delayed. Years passed. It wasn't until 1590 that the ship finally made it back to Roanoke. But when they arrived, there was nobody there. The colony was standing. The homes were fine. Nothing was broken or burned. No blood. No bodies. Everything looked untouched. But everybody was gone. The only sign left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post. Croatoan. That's the name of a nearby island. Maybe they relocated there. Maybe they tried to start over, but the search never happened. The weather turned and the ship couldn't make it across. So the mystery just sat. There were around 120 people living in Roanoke when the supply ship left, and not a single one of them was ever seen again. Even with all the attention the case gets today, even with modern tools and tech, nobody's figured it out. Researchers have combed Roanoke. No signs of a fight. No bones. No graves. They searched Croatoan. Nothing there either. No relics. No remains. There are even companies today still trying to solve it. But they haven't found a single solid answer. Not one piece of proof. It's like those 120 souls just disappeared off the face of the earth, gone without a sound. And for some that's not just a mystery. That's another glitch. Another example of the simulation breaking. Researchers went digging. They searched Roanoke, looking for bones, anything to prove the settlers had been attacked, but they found nothing. No remains. No signs of a fight. If Native Americans had gone to war with them there would have been damage. There would have been blood. But there wasn't even a broken door. They searched Croatoan too. The island the settlers might have moved to. Still nothing. No bodies. No tools. Not a single object that said we were here. And now there are entire companies, whole teams whose only goal is to solve this case. But still, nothing. From everything I've read, they haven't found a single shred of physical proof. Not even a button. It's like the entire colony just vanished. Just dropped off the face of the earth. To this day, people are still guessing. There are dozens of theories, but not one solid answer. And with that kind of mystery hanging in the air, some folks believe the answer ain't physical at all. They think it was a glitch. A major glitch in reality. Like the simulation we're living in just hiccuped. Like it erased the Roanoke colony by accident. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, sure. That happened in the 1500s, but that couldn't happen now. Except, maybe it can. Because we're more connected than ever. We track everything. Every second. Planes, cars, phones. You name it. It's estimated that over 44,000 flights happen every single day. About 2.7 million people flying through the skies. And almost all of them land just fine. But then there was Flight 370, Malaysian Airlines, March 8, 2014. That morning, those passengers boarded their flight like it was just another day. They had no idea they were about to become a global mystery. The plane took off from Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. It was headed to Beijing. 227 passengers, 12 crew. As they crossed into Vietnamese airspace, the pilot made one last radio call. His last words were, "Good night, Malaysian 370. That was it. That was the final message anyone ever heard from Flight 370. After that, the plane disappeared. All 239 people on board. Gone. To this day, they've never found the full wreckage. Never found the black box. And even though people have theories, dozens of them, none of them stick. None explain everything. Because here's the part that keeps me up at night. How does a Boeing jet, a full-size airplane, just vanish in 2014? With all the satellites, all the tracking, all the tech we got. It makes no sense. This was one of the biggest news stories of the decade. Every major country got involved. Search crews, submarines, sonar scans, and still, no real answers. No wreckage. No location. No one ever saw them again. You'd think with all those resources, they would have found something. A wing, a suitcase, anything. But years later we're still here, grasping at scraps. And that's why some people believe this wasn't just an accident. Maybe the plane didn't crash. Maybe it glitched. Same way James Tedford vanished off that bus. Same way the Roanoke colony disappeared from history. Maybe the simulation hit a glitch, and the whole plane got removed. And here's where it gets really dark. Because if glitches like this are real, if things and people can just disappear like that, then where do they go? Do they just stop existing? Or do they wake up somewhere else? Do they land in another version of reality? Or maybe they fall into a part of the map that was never supposed to be reached. A place the simulation never programmed. A void. Just darkness. No time, no sound. A blank space where nothing lives, and nothing ever moves. You'd be stuck there, alone, forever. And just the thought of that, man, that's terrifying. And for that reason alone, I pray none of this is real.